me or you were... Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the Star Wars Unlimited Sector Qualifier live from Tilburg in the Netherlands. Ben and Ross Gilbert here with you as we were yesterday, and things today may look a little bit different on the stream. We are going to do our best as we possibly can. Carl, who those of you will be very, very familiar with, has unfortunately been taken unwell, but we are still here. We are right here. I'm still here in Tilburg. And Ross is joining us back from the UK as well. Good morning, Ross.
Good morning, live from the studio in the converted barn outside my house. Yeah, big love to Carl, absolutely wonderful dude. So things might look a little bit different today, bear with us. What are we going to do? Not bring you day 2 of the Star Wars Unlimited Sector Qualifier? Nah, mate, that does not sound like us. But do forgive us anything that looks just a wee bit different to what it might have looked yesterday. And I've been having a look, Ben, at the top tables. There are 2 undefeated players. And it's Han Solo worth the risk, Han 2, obviously it is. That's probably the top deck coming into the format, either that or Yoda. And then Jasper Newland, Sabay. Although, quick apology from the end of stream yesterday. I referred to them as one of the youngest players in the tournament. I was getting them confused with their opponent from their stream game. That's on me. Apologies on that one. But regardless, we have a Sabay at 8-0. We have a Sabay at 7-1. We have a Mother Tolzin at 7-1. There is a lot of Han. There is a lot of Yoda. We've got, table 5. We've got a Darth Vader pilot. We've got a Kylo Ren on table 6. So, yes, there's a lot of Yoda. Yes, there's a lot of Han. But there are some other decks sneaking around. And for me, the big story this weekend, Sabay looks legit.
Yeah, this Sabe deck looks really, really cool and capable as well. A really good mix of aggression on board, but also more mid-range approach in terms of the mindset with that control of the top of the deck when she isn't deployed, and of the hand and knowledge of the hand when she is deployed as a leader unit as well. We aren't, however, going to be looking at Sabe to kick things off in our day 2. We have 4 rounds of Swiss to play before we get to our top 8 cut, and it's the first sight this weekend of Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, Emperor Palpatine has been, we're talking about a 6-1-1 player. We're not talking about these players who have been on the top tables. These are players that we want to show you, this Palpatine. We've been following Palp all weekend, but it's been not quite high enough for us to want to put it on stream. And essentially, this is us going, look, there is a Palpatine here. If it wins the next few rounds, if it goes on a bit of a run, we could see this in top cut. But the Palpatine, the 6-2, 6-1-1 players, they're operating on not very much margin at this point. Some 6-2s might make it in, but unfortunately, if you're 6-2, I think you're probably going to be relying on resistance, which is not ideal. Honestly, X1 is what you're looking for to be safe, and after that, we are relying on tiebreakers, but we have got Palpatine with just a vanilla 30 HP cunning base on the left with Jan, and then we got Paul on the right with Admiral Piet and a 30 HP aggression base. We're not quite starting the game yet, Ben, but we shuffled up. One player's got their resources down. We're waiting for a fist bump to start day 2.
Yeah, we've got, of course, Admiral Piet Aggression as well, which is a deck that we saw a couple of times on stream yesterday. It's been having a little bit of a resurgence during Secrets of Power. But Palpatine with the Cunning base has been something that's been floating around ever since Spark of Rebellion. There was always quite a considerate and consistent debate among Palp players about whether Palpatine with Vigilance or Palpatine with Colossus was the best way to go about things. The general consensus ended up being that Palpatine with Vigilance was the way to go, a more hard control style of build, but now Palpatine Cunning has been able to do something quite special, has put up some good results during the Legends of the Force format as well, particularly in the lead up to the regional championships in Bilbao, but now back here in Secrets of Power to see what kind of new tricks that it's got up its sleeve.
Okay, this is really, really annoying. What we basically got here, we've started, we're off, we're rolling. Woo, day 2. Jan has gone and played Bazine Natal. and you get to look at your opponent's hand, discard a card. If you do, they draw a card. As far as I'm concerned, we saw Palp Aggression on stream yesterday. I think Gonk Droid is like your perfect turn 1 card, but Resupply is your perfect turn 2 card. So that was an awkward decision there from Yan. If there was only one of those cards, I feel like it would have been a much easier decision. Yeah, turn 1 Gonk Droid, nice and easy. On attack, it reduces the cost of the next unit you play by 1. But then Resupply gets you an extra resource, which helps to pay the 1. So that was an awkward Bazine Natal. But look, you got one of the best cards in the early game.
Yeah, I think Resupply is the best choice there out of the two. You certainly do get the incremental value out of the Gonk Droid as the game goes on, but with it only being a 1/3, it is easy enough to be able to double trade into through these mid-game, early game stages. If Yan perhaps sets like Super Laser Technician in this action phase number 2, then action phase 3, you can double trade into the Gonk Droid. We're already seeing some damage being set up here with the Bazine attack. The thing though with the Resupply is that is a uninteractable immediate value generator. As soon as you hit that Resupply, it's in the resources. You go up to 5 on the next action phase. Even better here now, we've got the Elite P-38 Starfighter to ping 1 damage across, meaning Bazine will be able to take it out on the next phase.
Yeah, and we do get to see, is that the Assault Freighter coming down here? With
Yeah,
Overwhelm
MC-30.
and Raid 1. So it's yeah, it's a capital ship already coming down here for Paul. Of course, it's a 5 cost, but reduced by 1 because you attacked with Gonk Droid, and reduced by 1 because of your Piet skill. So that 5 becomes a 3, and that 5 drop is played when you've only got 3 resources. This is what Palpatine does. You play capital ships cheap.
Yeah, just to get a quick peek there in Paul's hand just a second ago, it looks like there's a really intriguing capital ship that's actually in there and in this list. The Invasion Control Ship. This is a 7-cost space unit from Legends of the Force. Of course, it's a capital ship, but it's a 5/9 that gives friendly droid units Raid 2. We've seen a little bit of a droid sub-theme being introduced into Piet Aggression of recent formats. Obviously, things like the Imperial Dark Trooper, which we established yesterday, is indeed a droid. HK-47, obviously the Gonk Droid, Probe Droid, as well as the Vanguard Droid Bomber, and the Invisible Hand as well to fetch those droids out of the deck. So there's a little bit of a kind of sub-theme going on that's now getting extra support and offensive capabilities with the Invasion Control Ship. And of course, in Piet, once it's deployed, that's a 5-cost 5/9 that's granting friendly droids Raid 2.
Absolutely is. Well, Gonk Droid has gone down. You called it, Ben, the double trade from Bazine Natal there. With it only having 1 power, it doesn't do too much back. The P... Oh, I've forgotten the number, Ben. P-38?
38.
P-38 Starfighter. There we go. Just goes into that capital ship there, the Assault Frigate. Doesn't actually trade. It does some damage and falls down, but we are building up to getting rid of that. And here comes that Dark Trooper. The people don't fit in the suit, Ben. It is a droid, and it does seem like we are... Oh, well, that is... So this is Emperor Palpatine's skill we're using here. You pay 1, defeat a friendly unit, deal a damage, and draw a card. That allowed you to deal that 1 final damage to the Assault Frigate, get rid of it, and draw a card to give up Bazine Natal, who, look, got rid of the resupply from hand, got rid of the Gonk Droid, and then on her way out, took out the Assault Frigate. That's pretty good value for a 2-cost turn 1 card.
Yeah, this is really strong value in this early game right now for Yan. Also found a resupply, has another copy of resupply available to him in hand. Emperor Palpatine, one of the highest deploy costs in the game for a leader unit at 8 or more resources needed for that epic action to be activated. And even though Paul has had that MC-30 Assault Frigate on the board in this early stage of the game, Paul is still quite far behind to where he would want to be at this stage. He's only just reached 5 resources by having resourced manually in the regroup phase each time. Yes, is on 10 damage, but Yan has started to get a lot more advanced now playing this legacy run down onto the board. This is one of the key cards that has propelled the Cunning Palpatine list up into one of the more favored builds of this leader. The 3/3 for 5, which when defeated allows you to deal 6 damage divided as you choose among enemy units. And as we've just seen, Ross, one thing that Palp can do and loves to do is defeat friendly units for advantage.
Absolutely, ping damage around, and that's the thing. We see a lot of ping damage in Star Wars Unlimited. We saw it yesterday with Phasma, we saw it with Cad Bane, we saw it in the past with Quinlan Voss, and before we lost it, Jango Fett. Ping damage all over the place. And Palp loves a bit of that ping damage as well. We've got it on the leader skill, and then when you're pinging, the invisible hand becomes so good, having that 6 damage spread wherever you like. And then it's a free. It's understated for the cost, quite clearly. Either your opponent takes it out and you get the extra 6 damage, yay, or your opponent doesn't take it out and you just get 3 damage into the base every turn, or they play a ship and then you trade and get your damage anyway. So it's quite an adaptable little card. It's a weird one when you first look at it, but if you can ping a bit of damage in addition to this, we've already seen the P-38 Starfighter as well. It can really help to start taking out multiple units at once and clearing some board. But here comes Ruthless Raider, Ben.
Yeah, Ruthless Raider putting 2 damage onto that legacy run and 2 damage onto the base as well. Does mean that on the next action phase, Yan can have the opportunity to just crash the legacy run back into the Ruthless Raider. That'll deal the initial 3 damage, and then we're using its when defeated can deal 3 remaining onto the Raider, and then also take out the Imperial Dark Trooper as well with the remaining 3. That would be perfect maths. Still would leave the potential of an Admiral Piet leader unit undamaged, however, so we'll have to see just how Paul plays out the rest of this action phase. Yan is just going to go ahead and claim the initiative, it looks like here. There is going to be the deployment of the Admiral Piet leader. Go and take a quick swing in for 2 damage, and then on to the next action phase we will pretty swiftly go.
Yeah, I love Star Wars Unlimited. The players are really switched on. When one player claims the initiative and the other player then gets to do whatever they like until the end of the turn, they don't muck about. Deploy, attack, let's go to the regroup phase. We do get ties in Star Wars Unlimited. See, the Yans already had one, but ties are very rare in this game, partly because of the game and partly because the players don't tend to muck about, which I appreciate. As a caster, Ben, this makes me very happy. Right now, how happy is Paul? He's got 13 damage on the board. He does have some units in play. Clearly, the Palpatine is a slower deck. It is a deck that wants to get later into the game. So for Paul here, it's really about trying to get damage down, although Piet is hardly the most aggro fast deck we've ever seen, because the longer the game goes on, the more Palpatine is going to be a little bit, all right with things.
Yeah, it's a really awkward tightrope to have to walk because yes, Palpatine is certainly a leader and a deck that wants to go and is capable to go into the late game. You've got great command villainy control tools. Obviously, one of the biggest ones we'll be looking out for in this matchup will be the 10 cost Devastator, the big 10/10 Sentinel that says, okay, Paul, you want to litter the space arena with capital ships. Now run them into this 10/10 and see a lot of them go slowing out of the skies. But the cunning version is a little bit less adept or less proficient in terms of that late game control and advantage than the vigilance version is, because you don't have access to those harder control tools. You don't have access to things like Power of the Dark Side, No Glory Only Results, Super Laser Blast, the big red panic button to completely reset the board and get that advantage back to you. So we'll have to see how much that Yan can start to claw things back now that Paul does have that Admiral Piet leader unit deployed. He's still taken no damage onto the base, and capital ships are about to start flurrying into the space arena.
Oh, absolutely. The game is going quite well. Now, we just saw the Invisible Hand go into Ruthless Raider, and then that activated the When Defeated skill, which put 3 on the Ruthless Raider to finish it, and 3 down onto the
Ooh.
leader. And here we go. We finally get it down. Contracted Hunter has got Ambush, free cost 4/4 with Ambush, gets defeated at the start of the regroup phase, but for now, it can ambush in and take out that leader, clearly getting value, because while Piet is deployed, you reduce the capital ship cost by 2. It's essentially like having an extra resource on the field.
And that was really huge because I think Paul had an 8-cost Devastator in hand as well. So without that Admiral Piet going down in that action, Paul would have had the opportunity to get the 8-cost Devastator onto the board, assign the 4 indirect damage when played himself, and then that's a big 9 power beater that is in the space arena that Jan isn't equipped to deal with at this very stage in terms of resources. He's on 21 damage onto the base right now. There is what, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage currently represented on board across with the Dark Trooper and the Ruthless Raider. Salacious Crumb will be able to heal one of that damage, but in a couple of faction phases, if Jan can't mop up this board state, Paul's going to take this game 1.
He is going to take it. He's doing very well. We did see Salacious Crumb there just come in and healer damage from the base, which is quite nice. Now, there is an action to return it to the owner's hand and deal a damage to a ground unit. We're not there yet, unfortunately, because we just used the leader skill to defeat it, deal 1 to the Ruthless Raider, and then go and draw a card. Salacious Crumb, perfect in this Palp deck. Heal your leader, heal your base by 1, and then you can go ahead and have it as fodder for Admiral Piet's skill there, which I think is quite nice. But
Pretty
Paul is
nice
5 away from
indeed.
winning.
Pretty nice indeed. I remember during the early days of Star Wars Unlimited when OG Boba Fett was still running around in the format. Boba Fett with the 30 HP command base, and Joshua Freeman Birch utilizing that along with McClunky to play the Salacious Crumb down, bounce it back into hand with McClunky, and keep looping this almost sort of infinite heal that he was able to accomplish while still being able to deal some damage into units and further on his board state with some really strong value. So yeah, it's been a great card and a great little servant throughout the course of Star Wars Unlimited history. For Jan, though, I feel like he's going to need a little bit more than just 1 damage healing being looped for a few action phases. He needs some big answers with these capital ships waiting for him.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some healing in Salacious Crumb and
Oh,
Reinforcement
that's a
Walker.
problem.
And
That's a
well,
problem.
yeah,
That's going to do it. Planetary Bombardment with 12 damage indirect, and there's going to be nowhere except the base for it to be able to go because we control a capital ship. So Paul looks like going to take game 1 in round number 9 as the players slide up their cards and get ready for sideboarding.
yeah, indirect damage. Your opponent gets to choose where it goes. It can go on units, it can go on the base. However, if you play it and your opponent has no units, all that damage is getting piled onto the base. There's 10 left. That does 12. And unfortunately, 12 is greater than or equal to 10. And that means that Paul is going to take game 1 here. And look, I know I've talked about the fact that Palpatine can kind of hang around, do a bit of healing, play a longer game. It's why Dan ends up with a tie here, which is quite rare. There's very few people in the tournament that do. But Paul did what Piet does there. And the thing is, because Palp is not this really fast deck, you get a couple turns to establish where you might not against some of the faster decks in the format. And Paul used that to his advantage, just getting that damage in nice and consistently, and honestly won that game at a canter. That was pretty one-sided. Paul won that fairly easily in the end.
Yeah, which is quite funny considering the strong early game that Jan actually ended up having. Had that turn 1 Bazine Natal to be
Yes.
able to deny the resupply, but Paul still managing to be able to do enough with the leader action inherently on the undeployed side, being able to reduce the capital ship's costs down by 1 before actually going ahead and deploying and getting that 2 resource reduction cost, and just had enough just sheer aggression and sheer strength to get over that initial Palpatine curve. I've generally been a little bit of a non-believer, if I'll be completely honest with you, Ross, in the cunning build of Palpatine. That might be because I'm a Vigilance Villainy player at heart. I love my hard control tools. Heal 5, Bill 6, just absolute music to my ears. What that says about me as a person, I'll leave that up for decision, but I just love the idea of being able to play that continuous, consistent denial and value game and then avalanche up in the late game in such a strong and quick fashion. Cunning Palp for me, purely just in terms of its aspect alignment, doesn't really have that kind of big stopping point and then the big overwhelming avalanche.
No, absolutely. And right now, we weren't shown too much in round one to try and convince us that Palpatine Cunning might be better than we thought. Right now, we are in the sideboard phase. Players can have up to 10 cards in their sideboard. They have to start their game with their regular 50-card deck. However, and that is every single round. But after game one and after game two, if they like, they can swap as many cards from their sideboard in and out of their deck as they like, up to, of course, the 10 that's in the sideboard. And then they can go ahead. So in the sideboard, we see players having cards which are generally less, I need this every game, and more, well, in certain matchups, an extra copy of this will help. Or in certain matchups, this card suddenly becomes crucial. So they're in the sideboard. And if you're in a bad matchup or even a matchup which can be improved, that's when it comes out. Question is there anything in Palpatine's sideboard here for Jam which is going to help what was seemingly not a great matchup here?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I'm liking the look of here. Eager Escort Fighter, certainly to kick things off, just the 4-1 ambusher in that early stage of the game when Paul does get into those first couple of capital ships. Go in with the Eager Escort Fighter, ambush away, and if you've got an extra unit on the ground spare, something like a Super Laser Technician or a Bazina tile that's already damaged like we saw in game one, we can use the Palpatine leader action, defeat the Bazine, and then try and get that final damage needed from the Palp ability. There's also a couple of really cool cards in here. One of them is a rare from Secrets of Power. There's a copy of Arrest in the sideboard. It's a 2-cost Cunning Villainy event. Your base captures an enemy non-leader unit at the start of the regroup phase. Its owner rescues it. So if Paul drops down one of the bigger, scarier capital ships, something like the 8-cost or the 10-cost Devastator, if the game goes that kind of distance, then we can arrest it and give us an action phase at the very least to try and either win the game on that phase right there or put us in enough of a scenario where we can deal with the unit when it goes ahead and comes back. Another card that I really, really like in here, more because I am a fan of battle droids, is a reprocess. Now, this card probably not so much necessary in this matchup. Seems more geared towards the mill matchups, so those vigilance matchups where you are forced to discard the top 6 cards of your deck with the double aspect vigilance card from Spark of Rebellion. But because we're not in that aspect, that card would cost us 8 resources. So to fix that a little bit, we've gone for reprocess, which is a 3-cost command villainy event, which says choose up to 4 units in your discard pile, put them on the bottom of your deck in a random order, and create that many battle droid tokens. So it's insulating us from that damage that we take at the start of a regroup phase if we can't draw a card as we are needed to. It helps us in that mill matchup, and it also, with those battle droid tokens, gives us more fodder for that Palpatine leader action. As I said, I'm not necessarily expecting to see it in this matchup. Seems more geared towards those vigilance matches, but a really, really cool and fun card nonetheless.
Yeah, it is a fun one where we are getting ready to get going in game 2 here. Remember, at the start of the game, you draw 6, 4 go into your opening hand, 2 become your resources to start the game. Your hand's been ready for a little while. Paul took a mulligan, which is where you shuffle your hand into your deck, draw a new 6 cards, but we are rolling here. Jan gets your Aura Sing down immediately, hidden and Raid 2, but matched with HK47, exclamation, die meatbag.
Yeah, HK47, when an enemy unit is defeated, deal 1 damage to its controller's base. And this is actually quite an interesting card to start off with in terms of the interaction with Emperor Palpatine. That leader action says to defeat a friendly unit, and HK47 doesn't say when an enemy unit is defeated by combat or by our own effect damage. It's just enemy unit is defeated. So Yan could be taking quite a bit of damage to his own base if he's wanting to use that Palpatine leader action before dealing with HK47. So a really good early find there from Paul.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing. Palpatine leader action while HK is on the board will cost 1 damage to your base. I believe that is a, well, we're looking at Paul's
Garinden, I
hand
think,
here.
is playing here.
Well, is it Bazine?
It looks like it's Garinden from
Oh,
Secrets of Power, the
very
newer
similar.
version of Bazine Natal. Name a card, look at an opponent's hand, and discard a card with that name from it. So a little bit more of a conditional Bazine Natal, but it's still getting a look into the hand. It's still getting some important information in terms of what capital ships are in the hand already, if Paul has access to resupply on this phase or not as well. Doesn't seem like it to start off with. We're seeing the HK swing in, Aura Sing's now firing back. Doesn't look like it's resupply again here on these 3 resource action phases. Instead, going to be the Imperial Dark Trooper. Now we'll see Yan go ahead and activating that Emperor Palpatine leader action. Does deal with the HK47, but as we said, Ross, 1 damage has been left over residually from the HK effect.
Yeah, had to take 1 damage on there. There is no resupply, but again, we don't know. It's hard to know. But the Garandan here had to have said resupply. Like, with this card, either you know what's in the hand, so you pick something you know they've got because you've previously looked with a Bazine or whatever, or you just name the card you think would be most advantageous to them at this point. So you play it down and you say resupply. Worst case scenario, you don't get a hit, but you do get to see their hand. Best case scenario, they lose a resupply. So I'd be pretty confident resupply was the card that was named. We do see that Dark Trooper now going into Aura Singh, who remember has Raid 2, so when attacked is just a 1/4, and that means that we leave it and we finish off with 3 damage on Yan's base, and Paul has a Dark Trooper out with 1 damage on it, and that's it. That's where we are.
But now we find a second copy of Garinden, and we do see resupply has now been picked up here for Paul. It looks like that might be the card that Yan is electing to choose. We are actually choosing MC-30 Assault Frigate here, and this actually makes a lot of sense because that was eligible to be played on this action phase with the Admiral Piet leader action. So denying the immediate unit here as opposed to the resupply. Paul does just immediately fire the resupply off in response. Makes a lot of sense. That pushes us up to 5 resources, and Piet leader unit is now eligible to deploy from this action phase onwards.
What we just learned was that Yan knows this matchup incredibly well. Remember, Bazine Natal, you look at the hand. Garinden, you name the card and then look. He named Assault Frigate without looking. Because he basically went, I don't care if you got a resupply now, you're off curve. You want resupply with 3 resources, not with 4. But you are about to be able to play Assault Frigate. That is the on-curve play. So I'm going to name the on-curve card and get rid of it. Now, I can't remember if he saw it previously or not from the earlier Garinden. That doesn't matter. He didn't care about resupply at this point, not as much. Assault Frigate was the card that was on curve at that point. It was exactly what we saw come down on curve in game 1, although the Gonk droid did actually get it down a turn earlier. So he got rid of that instead. Really heads up play. And I think Jan's just shown us, I understand this matchup. I know your curve. I know what you're going for.
Yeah, I think it's a very high likelihood that the MC Assault Frigate was in the hand from that first Garinden. But like you say, at that point, it is enough of a calculation to go, okay, I know what you are looking for at this point in the curve, as you say, wanting to try and follow that sort of progressive, linear-esque game plan of I want to get my first capital ship on board for as early as I possibly can. So denying that immediate threat, denying that immediate worry, which did cause Jan quite some worry in that game one when he managed to get it down, Paul, on the 5 resources necessary. So being able to not deny that on board, we do see the Super Laser Technician make its way down, so Jan continuing to try and ramp, but up to those 6 resources now, thanks to the resupply that we found, we have the Invisible Hand coming down as the first capital ship for Paul on game 2 through Admiral Piet's leader action.
And this is the one where when you play it and when you complete an attack, look at the top 8 cards of your deck, find a droid. If it costs 2 or less, play it. And we've actually got things like the Droid Bomber, which is a ship, but is absolutely a droid. But then we got Probe Droid, Jonk Droid, HK-47, Dark Trooper. There are quite a lot of hits in the deck.
Unfortunately, we've missed.
Oh, we
We
have
didn't
whiffed. I was
find
going to
a
say, it looks
single
like
droid.
does look like we have whiffed there, unfortunately, which is really upsetting because there's a lot of hits in the deck. Never mind, eh?
Yeah, can't hit them all sometimes. It is such a difficult situation when you search those top cards of the deck, but we do see that the Emperor Palpatine leader action has been activated. Super Laser Technician going into the resources and ready it. We're seeing No Good To Me Dead being played as the last action of that phase, being able to freeze down that Invisible Hand. It will only stay frozen for this action phase as we go into the new one through the regroup phase, so not as much value from the No Good To Me Dead that you could potentially generate from it, obviously being able to exhaust it down first for a phase and then it's staying frozen, but still making sure that you're not taking 6 damage to the base and denying Paul an extra search for the top 8 cards of the deck for a droid, which, seeing the first one miss, is likely enough to be able to hit this time around. Pretty good situation. Here, though, isn't, because Planetary Bombardment again comes down from Paul, and Jan has no units to soak any of this 12 indirect damage into, so it is a 6 cost, take 12 to the face.
And when you've only got a 30 HP base, 12 to the face is just too much. We do see a resupply coming down here, but that is not actually going to get Jan's board position rolling. We see more damage coming down from the phase 3 Dark Trooper, which is going all the way up to 21, sorry, at this point. We're only 9 away. The Invisible Hand is going to be back hitting for 6 next turn. But Dark Trooper's hitting for 3. And if anyone out there is a fan of counting, 21 plus 6 plus 3 is exactly 30. So Paul is representing game on board here, which is why the leader is deploying and stealing the Invisible Hand.
Yeah, that 1 damage onto the Invisible Hand from the Super Laser Technician that was sacrificed away to Palp leader action. So important there, because as soon as it deploys, you steal a unit that is damaged. So the No Good To Me Dead, forcing Paul not to be able to attack with it, get that extra 6 damage in on this phase, and potentially get out another unit of the likes of Vanguard Droid Bomber, HK-47, Gonk Droid, Probe Droid, Dark Trooper, like we've established already, but now getting it himself, getting an opportunity to put some aggression back onto Paul when he starts to bring some more of these capital ships out. And Palpatine as well is a capable enough attacker. It is a 410 on its stat line, so is able to swing into Piet, get some good damage in, could take out the Dark Trooper as well on its own, but instead just pushes damage into Admiral Piet, takes 3 now from the Imperial Dark Trooper. Paul is 7 away from winning this game and moving on to 7-2 across the Swiss records from today and yesterday. Can he do enough? We've got Sneak Attack into Legacy Run.
That's kind of fun. Sneak Attack lets you play a unit from your hand a little bit cheaper. Now, it only lasts for the one regroup phase, and then it gets defeated. But for the short term, it does help massively. We see the phase 3 Dark Trooper go down as the Legacy Run is defeated. We see the Admiral Piet unit. And yesterday, we saw a couple of games where we had players getting really, really close after really, really good starts and not being able to finish. Paul is 7 away from winning, but with no damage represented on the board right now. Ben, it's time for some capital ships.
Yeah, it's big, big time for some capital ships. I see that there's a Ruthless Raider in hand here for Paul, which looks like that is going to be the call here. 2 damage onto a unit, but most importantly here, 2 damage onto a base. And if Jan does want to take the trade into that Ruthless Raider with Invisible Hand, that's another 2 damage into the base that is being generated. And Jan can only afford so much of this damage to be able to play with. He's only 5 away, and Ruthless Raider as a 4 power unit as well is going to put him very dangerously close onto the edge of losing. So we're going to play Reinforcement Walker. That's a huge find on this board state when played and on attack. Look at the top card of the deck. Either draw it or discard it and heal 3 from your base. That's the real important point here. The heal 3 bringing us down to 22 and giving us a little bit more leeway to take out that Ruthless Raider with Invisible Hand and try and deal with some more of Paul's board state.
That is what we're going to be doing. Well, right now we're swinging with the Invisible Hand into the Ruthless Raider, but that is going to put 2 damage onto the base. That is now, well, it's 1 away. Sorry, 6 away. 6 away. So we got Dark Trooper that can do 3 of that 6. But right now, Jan is doing a really good job of hanging on. There's only 3 damage on Paul's base. Jan is not close to winning. Right now, Jan is in full survival mode, but they are doing a decent job. Dark Trooper is going down to the Palpatine leader. And now we got Reinforcement Walker and Palpatine on one side. We've got nothing on Paul's side. He needs 6 more damage, which is going to end up being more when we heal with Reinforcement Walker. But again, there is no damage represented on the board for Paul. It's going to be a long, slow climb back from Palpatine. But this is the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was. You pointed out perfectly, actually, Ross, with the Reinforcement Walker. It is actually more effectively 9 damage that Paul is needing to find, because as soon as that Reinforcement Walker attacks in as likely the first action for the phase, we'll be able to get the heal 3. Open Fire is a good find to start things off for Paul. That gets rid of the Palpatine at the very least, with it having 10 base HP. You've got the opportunity to just use it to trade in a little bit favorably to some of the few ground units that Paul does run in this list, but it is this Reinforcement Walker that's the problem.
It is, and the capital ship, it's going to be another Invisible Hand. I adore that this is the option here, because what Paul really needs is bodies on the board to deal damage. So this is 6 damage, which will hopefully bring a droid in, and then that droid will then represent potentially more damage next turn. I am seeing at least a droid bomber. So
yeah,
and because it's the Invisible Hand Separatist, that will deal 2 damage to the base on play.
Yeah, really nice. That's probably the perfect find that you can actually get in that situation. Get the extra damage into the base. Just take out that Reinforcement Walker differential. But a big oh no is right. There is that card that I was mentioning, Ross, that was going to be a big equalizer for Jan in this matchup. That 10 cost Devastator coming down and saying, okay, Paul, you want to play in space? Here's a giant mechanical pizza wedge. Run into this.
Absolutely. And I just want to go back to something you said a minute ago, Ben. I'm going to take a little bit of issue with something you said. You said, well, it's not 6 damage, it's 9 for the Reinforcement Walker. Oh, that Reinforcement Walker is getting more than 1 attack off, my friend. It's not 9, it's maybe 12, it's maybe 15. Reinforcement Walker, every single turn that survives, it's an extra free that needs to be taken. And Paul is not playing in the ground unit very much. And where they are, it's these little droids. I mean, a more would help right now.
More wouldn't be too bad. It's really, really awkward here, actually, for Paul, because the best case scenario for him, honestly, I think is a 10 cost Devastator of his own. And I'm not sure. I don't think I see it in the list. So be able to play a 10 cost Devastator down. Oh, no, completely
in the
wrong.
list.
There is the 10 cost Devastator. It is in the list.
There's
And this
two.
is what I mean. This is what I mean in terms of this sort of the awkward scenario for him. As much as you'd love to use your own 10 cost Devastator to take out Jan's 10 cost Devastator, as you've just mentioned, Ross, the Reinforcement Walker is actually the problem here. So now Jan, not anymore, it isn't, absolutely. So now Jan is left with a choice. He either runs in these 10 cost Devastators together and makes them trade, or he finds some other kind of way to get this 10-drop Devastator out of the board.
There's going to need to be something, because right now, that was a perfect card for Paul. This was starting to be one of those games where you're close to winning, but your opponent sets up big things to thwart you. Reinforcement Walker was a big deal. The 10-cost Devastator was a big deal. And what Paul did in one card there was go, well, I got rid of Reinforcement Walker by using the damage from Devastators on play skill. Yay. But at the same time, I basically set this up. We're now in a checkmate, a stalemate, if you will. Checkmate is definitely the wrong word. We're in a stalemate here with these Devastators. One of us has to attack, and when that happens, we both lose our Devastator. That's fine, because I don't care. I am so far ahead. Even Vader here, right? Vader comes down. It's got ambush, but there's nothing to ambush into. Hopefully, you get another hit off it. There's at least a Salacious Crumb. But next turn, you can attack with Vader, and you're still 24 away from winning. This is fine. The Reinforcement Walker was damage with healing. That is not what Vader is giving us, although it does bring Bazine Natal and Salacious Crumb.
Yeah, and reveals the only card in hand, which is being discarded. An 8-cost Devastator is gone now from Paul's hand. Does pick up a Maul of his own, so we'll be able to ambush and overwhelm in for some damage here. Unfortunately, I don't think it's just going to be enough for him to be able to overwhelm over the top. Both Bazine Natal and Salacious Crumb have 3 HP each, so the most that Paul can overwhelm for here is 4 damage. That puts Jan to 26, but with this 10-cost Devastator in play, okay, this is slightly dangerous here from Jan, trading the 10-cost Devastators into each other, because although we're focusing on what Jan did find in that Vader search, I also want to draw attention to what he couldn't find. That was a copy of Change of Heart and 2 more copies of 10-cost Devastators. So this feels very, very risky to me.
It is a bit risky, but Maul is really good right here, because you can overwhelm over, say, a Salacious Crumb, which I know doesn't win the game, but then you sit there and you go, well, I don't think you're winning the game this turn, so either you deal with my Maul and you are going to lose a unit in the process, or I'm going to swing with Maul next turn and win the game. So I think Maul was a pretty good pickup.
It's an amazing pickup.
And I do think you're still in a decent position. You now go up to 24. If there's any chance Jan drops a 1 health unit, that's not a 1 health unit, Ben.
No, but arguably that's even worse. We've got the Reinforcement Walker again being hit here, continuously stretching out that damage that is needed here for Paul. He's coming so close, action phase after action phase. A new invisible hand, again, as you said earlier, Ross, being able to bring another body along with it. Vanguard Droid Bomber, again, probably the best case scenario for us here. Just hard focus into space. We find the bomber, and we do control a Separatist, so with that is an extra 2 damage into the base. It's just about these little margins to try and get away. Yeah, you're totally right. Take the initiative. Yeah, Jan needs to claim.
Because if Jan puts down a 10-cost Devastator to start the next action phase, you are in a very, very bad position. Look at the ground unit, at the ground arena. Look at the amount of damage which is currently represented there between Reinforcement Walker, Darth Vader, and even the little units as well. A 10-cost Devastator would be, I'm going to say it, Ben, devastating. You have to finish with the initiative. And if I'm Jan, I actually would probably also just take here, just because if I've got Devastator in my hand, I've just watched my opponent use most of their resources to fill up the space arena, and I know a Devastator could well win me the game. It is a swing from Vader here, but that does give Paul the opportunity Oh, but he's not hitting for 7. Invisible
No,
Hand only hits for 6. So maybe
yeah,
it's not enough. Maybe claiming isn't
he's
enough.
Well, he has claimed Paul here with nothing else to do with, I think, 3 or 4 open resources. So Yan is just going to swing in with this Aura Sing, push Paul up to, it looks like 16 or 17 damage here on the base. Salacious Crumb can get in for 1 more as well to push him up to 18, or use its action to bounce back into hand. It is going to be the 1 damage, because bouncing it back into hand deals a damage to a ground unit, and spoiler alert, there are no ground units here, so Paul needs some kind of damage modification.
Paul's fine.
Is that another bomber?
I think all we need to do here, we swing with Invisible Hand, put it up to 29, and then we overwhelm Maul into a smaller unit. And now, after the swing from there, that should be enough. Paul should be able to win this. You swing with Invisible Hand for 6, and then if Devastator doesn't come down, you're good. But if Devastator does come down, you can overwhelm them all over Salacious Crumb, and then that is going to win the game. Maul should win this with Overwhelm for Paul.
Yeah, you're completely right. There is also the opportunity that if Paul finds a Vanguard Droid Bomber here, the 3rd copy, then that ends the game as well. If he can find that final copy, do we see it to deal 2 final damage onto the base? There's a Ruthless Raider, there's open fire.
And we're overcomplicating things, my friend. There's 29 damage on Yan's base, and Paul's got the initiative.
Yeah. Invisible Hand, so that's the first action. So Yan here, Paul just resolving the Invisible Hand search. Looks like we found ourselves a Gonk droid onto the ground arena.
And here's the thing, I don't think Yan can win from here. If you drop the 10-cost Devastator, Maul will overwhelm Salacious Crumb for the victory, or even Aura Sing, honestly. If you Reinforcement Walker here, again, now this puts down, this heals 3, right? So you need to get over 4. What's Salacious Crumb? Is that 4? It's 3,
is
so
a
Maul
3 HP, so Maul does it. Yeah.
4 will absolutely do it. Here we come. Here comes Maul. Overwhelm Salacious Crumb. 4 damage. Overwhelm. There's the fist bump. Paul, with a sigh of relief, takes it 2 games to 0. And Ben, I'm wearing a Maul pin because I love me some Darth Maul. And I love seeing me some overwhelmed Darth Maul to go and win round 1. That was very well played from Paul. And I tell you what, I think if he didn't have Darth Maul in hand, I don't think he was going to win that game. That game was about to get away from him.
Yeah, that was a huge find. Being able to pick that up as well as the Bazine Tile replacement card. Remember, Paul had 1 card in hand when he was Bazined. It was an 8-cost Devastator, which he was absolutely devastated to see go into the discard pile. But the lone 7-cost Maul that was picked up in replacement ended up being the final puzzle piece that Paul needed. And look, let's give credit to Yan. I'll give credit to Palpatine Cunning in that matchup. I've been very vocal and critical about Palpatine Cunning and its possibilities in the late game. It certainly looked like it was starting to turn the corner there, but in the end, Piet Aggression just being able to have enough, that invisible hand and this droid sub package as well. A massive shout out to that, because that was a huge piece that Paul was able to need here to get multiple bodies, get enough bodies to make sure that Reinforcement Walker was essentially only healing 1 damage a time when you factor out the Vanguard droid bomber attacks as well. So very, very well played to Paul. Piet Aggression still really showing its capability in this format.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the Palp player there, you're sitting there at 2 losses and a tie, which means you essentially have the tiebreaker over anyone with 2 losses. So if you win your next 3 rounds, you should still be able to make it into that top 8, because essentially you will be placed above any of the X and 2s. But that was a loss you did not want to take. And honestly, in game 2, you saw how Palpatine wins that game. You saw that the combination of Reinforcement Walker and Devastator was so close to getting over the line. And we see this Maul in so many decks. And that is essentially why. Being able to go over anything then getting a bit of extra damage on the base. And it was a lot of what we call burn damage that really got over the line there. You know, your little 2-cost droid chip that kept being hit off the invisible hand to do extra damage. Ruthless Raider doing that 2 damage to the base. Maul coming in with the overwhelm. Traditional attack damage kind of dried up towards the end of that game, and yet still able to get over the line. A really fun back and forth. Game 1, I'll be honest with you, that was a little bit of a cakewalk. Game 2, oh, that one, like I say, I'm pretty sure if the Maul wasn't coming down there, we would have seen 10 cost Devastator, healing with Reinforcement Walker, and it would have been a grind, but I think Palpatine would have grinded that game out for a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Palpatine would have been in a lot more of a comfortable position, but not to be in this scenario. Piet aggression moving on to 7-2. Will it be able to continue winning and maybe sneak in to our top 8 cut later on this afternoon? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. We've got 3 more rounds of Swiss though to bring you before that top 8 cut later on today. So do not go anywhere, because round 10 of Swiss live from Tilburg will be coming up just after this.